Hi, long time no see. There are two kinds of dog movies. The first are the most ubiquitous, the sap. You have a guy who can't seem to get his life together, or a kid who acts out, and the only person there to understand our troubled protagonist is a small, four-legged friend. Occasionally there is a journey, sometimes the dog is the main character, and sometimes they're a vessel for the human to act out their emotions. They all vary. The key characteristic of this first type of dog movie is earnestness. These can be some of the most saccharine, gooey, trite movies you'll ever see. And I'm talking so sappy your fingers stick together. So sappy, it likens the table at a Denny's after a toddler has just had pancakes. Despite that sap, a lot of these films work, and the dog always dies. But what if we don't want the dog to die? What if we want some good, clean, doggy fun? Well, look no further than the second type of dog movie, the slop. The defining characteristic here is that reality is just chucked out the window.
This dog has no license and is clearly in violation of the leash law. Call the pound.
I already did, sir. The truck is waiting outside.
Out of my way!
The dog could play basketball, be a superhero, spy, and battle cats. They could give less of a shit. While both of these types of movies end up seating a lot of kids in their audiences, the slop is made for kids, and it shows. The sad truth is that oftentimes when media is made for kids, quality is entirely neglected.
Oh, look at this! Marmaduke! Look at the perfect position here, Marmaduke in the bill!
This is the case with every aspect of these films, from shoddy production, poor effects, to constant fart jokes.
No, this can't be happening.
Now, if you can't tell, this isn't my first foray into dog cinema. On this channel, I've watched all of the Buddies films, the spin-off of Air Bud about his 5 children, each more offensive than the last.
Now I'm super duper pooper scoopify, yo!
Watching those did take a good 7 years off of my life, but what could it hurt to watch some more? I'm already cooked. There is a series of films that has recently ravaged my brain, and they combine the two types of dog movies that I've just talked about in a rather interesting way. And those films are the Beverly Hills Chihuahua series. These movies perhaps need no introduction. The first one was a massive success and is easily one of the biggest dog films of the century. People liked this movie, grandmas loved this movie. So much so that 2 more films were released directly to DVD. These movies were less popular, but much like most direct-to-DVD films produced by Disney, they have their audience and they have their fans. Included in these fans is my wonderful girlfriend Allie, who loves these films so much that she will kill me if I talk shit on them. Light jabs, hopefully, are okay, because today I would like to talk about all 3 of these movies, where sap and slop combine to create a new genre. Sop. Let's take a look at the Beverly Hills Chihuahua series. Much like the Beverly Hills Chihuahua series, this video comes to you in 3 parts. Beverly Hills Chihuahua is about privilege and perspective. It's a fish-out-of-water film about a dog named Chloe, voiced by Mom for Moms Drew Barrymore. Chloe is the Beverly Hills Chihuahua. At the beginning of the film, she's getting pampered in an overly edited montage, the first of many to come. She's comfortable, lavish, and surprisingly for a dog, catty. She wears a necklace made out of diamonds, these little booties, and she is way better than you. Her owner, Viv, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, gives her everything she wants. She's friends with this gay pug.
We had to do a little shopping.
Now that's the way to travel. Oh, I'm so jealous.
Oh, Fabu.
Louis Vuitton.
And she is happy, but incredibly privileged and unself-aware. Soon we meet Viv's niece, Rachel, who is racist.
Gardener guy? Your dog is mooey bad. Mooey bad. Mucho naughty. Can you, get your doggy-o out of here?
And that's not just me being woke. I know I pointed my finger at the Buddies films quite a bit, calling them racist, which they were, but that's genuinely one of Rachel's main character traits, that she's racist. At the very least, she is incredibly ignorant. She sucks. The first time we see her, she's beefing with Chloe, who, mind you, is a dog.
You're so completely useless.
And to be fair, Chloe beefs with her too.
Hello? How do you keep a job? Oh, that's right, you don't.
So, because something needs to happen in this goddamn movie, Rachel is forced to dog sit Chloe, and this is bad news for both of them, as they are mortal enemies. The two declare their biggest problems with one another.
She's so irresponsible.
Spoiled.
Poof.
And now we have the character arcs needed for this film, each of the characters' tragic flaws, if you will. In fact, this film is sort of structured like an epic. It's a long journey in which Chloe is faced with numerous challenges and characters that add to her growth as a person. It's sort of like the Odyssey, except instead of Odysseus meeting a daunting Cyclops that represents how one's ego can literally be the death of somebody, Chloe the Chihuahua meets a talking mouse that scams her on the streets of Mexico, teaching her never to trust a fat mouse voiced by Cheech Martin. However, before an epic journey is embarked upon, we meet Poppy, a rambunctious chihuahua voiced by George Lopez. Poppy is a small but mighty character in this film who is desperately in love with Chloe, so much so that he thirsts over her this entire film despite her clear disinterest.
If you ever need someone to lick inside your ears or chew the hard-to-reach places.
Jesus, Poppy, chill. She's not into you.
I am a landscaper.
By the way, Drew Barrymore as Chloe, easily one of the worst parts of this movie.
Poppy, that's so disgusting.
All of her lines sound like they were cold reads. She's really phoning it in.
I could never leave her in the hands of strangers.
Never in a million years.
It sounds like she's never spoken before.
Rachel, wake up. I've got a mani-pedi at 11 and you have to make my waffles. Get up!
Like, I understand that she's a dog and dogs don't talk, but I really think if they could, they'd have a little more energy than this.
Who am I, Lassie?
Somehow Lassie was more expressive than you. And she couldn't even talk. Since Rachel is just so done living in Aunt Viv's expensive mansion, she and her girlfriends drive down to Mexico, and they leave Chloe alone in their hotel room. So, naturally, since she feels as if she is living in an uncomfortable and unfamiliar prison cell, Chloe escapes the hotel. But, because she is a stupid dog, she is immediately lost and kidnapped.
Rachel! Help me! Somebody please! I'm being dog-napped!
¿Qué es lo que está pasando, señorita?
So, Chloe faces her first Odyssean challenge, a dogfighting ring. Dude, I know, it's scary as shit. All of the dogs are in small cages, one of them is praying in Spanish. It's a genuinely haunting scene. Terrifying. Backstage at the dogfighting ring, Chloe meets Delgado, a jaded German shepherd who's constantly muttering.
That's a relief.
I am so glad you feel better. Now can we get a little quiet?
On the outside, Delgado doesn't give a shit about anything or anybody. He represents the other side of the same coin that Chloe resides on. While Chloe lives a life of privilege, Delgado lives on the streets or in a cage. However, neither of them care enough about the people around them. At least, they would never admit that they care. This is interesting compared to other dog films of a similar vein. In those films, usually a dog expresses the utmost love for their owner. But in this film, it doesn't really seem like Chloe gives much of a shit about Aunt Viv. Sure, she wants to get home, but mostly for her own interest and not for her owner. I find that interestingly different than most dog films. I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but it certainly is different. I don't know, I think it's funny to not characterize your dog as wanting to get home because they love their owner, and it makes sense that most dog films would represent them that way, right? It's like, yeah, we want to believe that our dogs care so much about us when they see us, and sure, they do, but in reality, if your dog is stranded in Mexico, they probably would prefer to be inside your house than they would prefer to see you. I mean, your dog loves you. Maybe cut that. That's pretty sad. This, of course, only applies to dogs. My cats would love to see me anywhere. So Chloe is thrown in the ring with this absolute beast of a creature named El Diablo, and Chloe is shitting in her pants. I find this scene equally funny and disturbing because the dog playing Chloe looks so scared. And let me let you in on a little secret. Dogs in movies aren't acting. So what did they do to this poor dog to make it look so scared? But before El Diablo can murk Chloe, Delgado frees her from the cage and they escape. Delgado grabs her by the neck at one point, and due to the excitement, she turns CGI. In the dogfight, Chloe learned that not everybody in the world is going to support her, and that her privilege can be taken away at a moment's notice. There are people out there who will want to hurt you, including this guy who runs the dogfighting ring, who literally wants to murder Chloe.
I want that Chihuahua.
Why?
She's worth something.
After escaping, the two stop when they see a parade for the Day of the Dead.
This is so beautiful.
Which means that this movie takes place around the 1st or 2nd of November, which doesn't really matter to the film, but it would have been fun to see a Halloween scene. Wouldn't you have loved to see these bougie little puppies dressed up in their glam and glitz? Chloe would dress up as Lady Gaga or something, and this little gay pug would dress up as Elton John. Oh, if they let me make like a legacy sequel to the Beverly Hills Chihuahua series, I would make it entirely Halloween themed, and it would be called Beverly Hills Chihuahua. I just came up with that, but I love it. Anyway, Chloe is stopped dead in her tracks at this parade. She marvels at the spectacle. For once, she has seen beauty in a place outside of her comfort zone. She is astounded by the colors, the statement made, and the love put into the parade. This is the first time we see Chloe yearn to reconnect with her culture, and it won't be the last. In the film's much less relevant B-plot, Rachel is chasing after Chloe because it's entirely her fault that she got lost in the first place. She is joined by Sam, Poppy's owner that Rachel was racist towards, and Poppy, who chimes in with zingers left and right.
Don't look now, Hannah Montana, 3 o'clock. Oh, no, she didn't. What? We're Mexican, not Mexican. I'm with her, amigo. My Chloe's in trouble.
George Lopez's jokes in this movie sound like they were stolen off of a novelty t-shirt. While Rachel, Sam, and Poppy are on the hunt for Chloe, Chloe is alone in Mexico due to a very contrived misunderstanding between her and Delgado. Essentially, Chloe thinks she can check into a hotel because she's from Beverly Hills, but in reality, she's just this dirty-ass dog, so they kick her out onto the streets.
What? How dare you? I've been a preferred customer at this hotel for years. Don't you dare! You, sir, are making a big mistake. Huge. Really?
But Delgado, who was waiting outside, sees a dog that looks like Chloe dining alone in the hotel's restaurant.
Figures.
So he walks away in despair. There's this really depressing montage where Chloe is homeless, and I think this entire sequence counts as her second trial on her journey. Chloe just saw firsthand that her entire life of luxury exists merely at the whim of humans. When denied shelter, she must find it on her own. Her name, Chloe Winthrop Ash, means nothing if a human can't say it for her. She sleeps under a bench, alone. The next day, she's about to get eaten by El Diablo, who is still after her.
Perra pequeña. Where were we?
Hang on, kid!
His owner wants to kidnap Chloe and get ransom from Aunt Viv.
She's worth something.
This, of course, is not good, but it fails a little bit as a plot point for me because Chloe would probably be okay if this happened. In fact, if you're the dog in this situation, it's kind of a faster way to get home.
I have a trust fund.
If you're worth something, then they'll ransom you. And if they ransom you, they won't fight you. So I guess you have nothing to worry about.
Sure, it would be traumatizing for Aunt Viv, and Rachel would get in a lot of trouble because of this, and the whole family would probably lose a lot of money, but Chloe wouldn't know that. But for the sake of a longer film, and albeit probably a more entertaining film, Chloe cannot understand this. Delgado fights off El Diablo, makes up with Chloe, and agrees to take her home to Beverly Hills. The journey continues. But it's at this point where Chloe starts to question who Delgado really is, and begins to ask about his previous life.
Were you a criminal or something?
Or something.
Drew Barrymore, at this point in the film, is really trying to get out of that recording studio. She sounds asleep, but can you blame her? She's voicing a privileged Chihuahua who wears a diamond necklace. If you have no desire for whimsy in your life, that's kinda hard to take seriously. But it's even harder when she sounds like this.
Never mind.
Chloe's next challenge consists of this scamming mouse and this fat iguana. They pull this dirty trick on Chloe to steal her diamond necklace. And frankly, that awoke something in me.
Regurgitate that rat!
Manuel and Chico, the mouse and iguana, are an oddly insightful pair. Once they get away with scamming this chihuahua, they plan to go find a piñata to eat all the candy inside of it. But Chico the iguana has this to say.
Oh, leave me out of this, Manuel. Where there's a piñata, there's a stick.
And is that not a beautiful metaphor for life itself? It's incredibly apt to the themes of this film as well. For Chloe, while the life of luxury is her piñata, she also lives a life of severe ignorance, and at the end of the day, loneliness. the stick. She's found so much more fulfillment in her friendship with Delgado and her exploration of the real world than she ever did in Beverly Hills. Delgado puts Chloe onto a train that will take her to the border, and faced with a friendship that is becoming too true for what he deems worthy for himself, he decides to leave her behind. Chloe cries, and Delgado does this.
Don't turn around. Don't turn around. Don't. What am I doing?
This is sort of like his thing. He does this again later in the film and twice more in the sequel.
Don't turn around. Don't turn around.
Don't turn around. Don't turn around. Don't turn around. Don't turn around.
At first I thought this was just corny and a rather pointless line, but then I realized that it exists because subtext is much harder to portray with dogs. Let me explain. If you show a human walking away from somebody, you can see on their face that they are struggling with their decision to leave. But dogs, I'm sorry, cover the ears of your puppy if you are watching this with them, can't act. They don't know how, and they don't express emotions in the same recognizable way that we humans do. So this line was added to show that Delgado was torn with his decision to leave. Bringing it back so many times is a little ridiculous, but it is an interesting tool in my opinion. So with Delgado by her side, Chloe is on her merry way back to her life of privilege.
Don't help! Don't help!
But she realizes while on the train that she only has one of her little booties left on her feet. When questioned by a young child why she still has it on, she realizes that she doesn't know. She removes it and throws it off of the locomotive. As it flounders in the wind, Chloe is left wondering what really defines her. Is it her life of glamour, or is it the relationships she has with the people she holds dear? It's the youth that puts into question her useless ideals, and her listening is the only real key to change. This is Chloe finally coming to an understanding of herself. Meanwhile, Manuel and Chico have found a giant piñata, but the two are caught candy-handed because Manuel is gurgling up some tasty snacks.
Must have been the Pop Rocks. Or it could be.
And Chico gets attacked with a big-ass stick because the reward has resulted in the risk. Where there is a piñata, there is a stick. The two leave the diamond necklace behind, putting Rachel, Sam, and Poppy right on their tails. We also, at this point, see sparks between Rachel and Sam. The two of them are getting a little closer on their search for Chloe, and I could not care less. Okay, there are some nice moments in these parts, like Sam talking about how he found Poppy at the pound.
I safely from the pound. Hey, buddy. He inspires me every day.
And Rachel slowly becoming more responsible.
Oh no, they can stay with me. I take responsibility.
But for the most part, these characters aren't really fleshed out enough for me to care. In the real plot, Chloe and Delgado hop off of the train after they are caught by humans, and in a moment of despair and sheer loss, we finally get to know what Delgado has been hiding this whole time. Much like a broken electronic game of 20 questions, his nose don't work.
You can't smell, can you?
No.
What happened? It's okay, you can tell me.
And it's because he has PTSD. There's a whole dramatic flashback about it.
Before I knew it, I was blindsided. Then it all went bad.
Because of his disability, he was fired from the police force. And because he's a dog, they didn't pay him severance. So that's why he's depressed. I would be too if my nose didn't work and I was a dog. That's like their main thing. That's like if a cricket couldn't chirp, if a bird couldn't fly, if a monkey couldn't fling its shit at you at the zoo. It's just wrong and deeply sad. Anyway, Delgado and Chloe get attacked by mountain lions.
Run, kid, run! Run!
And right when it seems like they're about to get got, a swarm comes in from the distance. Nothing will prepare you for what you are about to see. A giant gang of Chihuahuas. God, this movie rules. The leader of the gang, Montezuma, takes Chloe to the ancient Aztec temples where the Chihuahuas reside and spits some wisdom about Chloe's Chihuahua heritage.
Find your bark.
My bark?
That which makes you mighty. That which makes you you.
What is this movie? This is the second case of Chloe connecting deeper to her Chihuahua roots, and you can tell that it truly inspires her.
When you look not with your eyes, but with your soul, there we're all the same.
Her journey of self-discovery is at the home stretch, and she is now becoming more than just a Beverly Hills Chihuahua. She cares about Delgado, she cares about her culture, she cares about Poppy for some reason.
There's someone at home who's probably worried and missing me, and I miss him.
Your corazón?
Chloe, where did this come from? You didn't give two shits about that creepy fuck before you left, but now that you've found yourself, you love him? This is so forced, but I guess for the sake of everyone being happy at the end of the film, it had to happen at some point. So there you go. It's just so lame that Poppy didn't have to change any of his weird, horny behavior, but Chloe had to change to make the romance work. That's the patriarchy right there, or the patriarchy. So Chloe and Delgado leave the Aztec ruins after an inspiring chant from the Chihuahuas.
We are tiny, but we are mighty!
For those of you who only speak English, no mas is Spanish for no more, as in no more Drew Barrymore voice acting, please.
I can't believe Rachel's looking for me.
God damn it. Chloe finds a poster put up by Rachel to find her, and she barks at it. Luckily, these humans next to her speak dog, and Sam, Rachel, and Poppy are all on their way. But they don't arrive until Chloe gets kidnapped yet again, this time by El Diablo. So Poppy shows up, and then he runs after Chloe, but then he also gets kidnapped. Man, these dogs just keep getting kidnapped.
You're trapped!
I will protect you, mi corazón.
Delgado wants to go after them, but remember, much like a lotion that's less likely to give you a rash, he has no smell. Luckily, a mix of true love and plot convenience kicks in, and his sense of smell somehow returns. There's a big standoff between this dogfighting ring gang, El Diablo, and Delgado. All while this is happening, though, Chloe frees Poppy and lets out her Chihuahua bark, which is finally ready.
No! Moth! Wow!
Which is truly inspiring. What a good climax to her character arc. Then she dies.
Chloe, watch out!
She's gone. It's me. Your Poppy.
And it's really sad. You start to wonder how these films are going to continue without the main protagonist. And you start to understand how this film is, by all means, an allegory for self-discovery. Often when people figure out who they really are and recognize the flaws in themselves and how they acted in their past, it's right before the world takes them. Life is cruel in that way, and in this epic aiming to represent that change within, it's unfortunately apt to end it this way. But I will be honest, it is quite a tone shift. See, it's just such a heartbreaking moment, you know?
Don't stop now.
God damn it, Chloe, why couldn't you just die? I have to take back that whole last section. Scratch that, forget it. Max, cut that out. Anyway, this is where the film starts to wrap itself up. Poppy and Chloe get to make out.
Chloe. Poppy likes.
Delgado gets recruited by the police. And Rachel the racist and Sam fall in love. Everyone is happy, and they bring Chloe back to Aunt Viv unscathed. Chloe returns back home, and now understands her privilege more than ever. She is forever changed, and understands how lucky she is to live the way that she does. It even ends with a little message, cautioning others to know how big a commitment adopting a dog is, which they didn't have to do, but it's really nice that it's here. And because I'm scarred by Snow Buddies, a film that treated its dogs horribly on set, I actually looked into the treatment of the dogs on the set of Beverly Hills Chihuahua. While not much information exists about the next two films, this one has a whole page on the American Humane Society dedicated to how they got the dogs to do certain things, and how they made sure all of the animals were treated well on set. It's a fascinating read that I'll link in the doobly-doo. Remember when I was curious about what they did to that poor dog to make it look so scared? Well, they actually explain it on that website.
Both dogs appeared to stare at each other when actually they were just looking at the respective trainers who were calling to them. Chloe was cued to back up to the door from which she entered, and trainers used brooms to gently brush on either side of her to get her to run in circles and look panicked.
And it's really comforting to know that this film took great care to make sure the animals were treated well on set. This, as any of you who have seen my buddy's video know, is not always the case, and it's really nice to know that this film was not like that at all. Beverly Hills Chihuahua is ridiculous, but story-wise, it's tight. Fun fact, it follows Dan Harmon's story circle pretty much perfectly. This, of course, doesn't inherently make for a strong film, but it does give it strong bones. It's clear that the people who wrote this this movie cared about keeping it consistent with its own themes, and because of that, it funnily enough serves as a pretty good deconstruction of privilege. Chloe's life is put into perspective as she encounters all of these challenges along the way, and for the first time in her life, she's not safe and comfortable. Sure, she takes her privilege back, but now she understands that it is privilege. She takes into consideration that that privilege shouldn't define her, and that her love for others is far more important. Beverly Hills Chihuahua is sappy, but it slaps. It's slappy.
Oh, bro.
Beverly Hills Chihuahua 2 is about fatherhood. Despite Chloe being the protagonist of the first film, this one is entirely focused on Poppy, with Chloe being pushed to the side. This is because none of the main cast from the original returned for the sequel. In fact, most of the side characters were recast as well. They even had to get someone different to voice the gay pug.
Chloe, you have to join us. This sushi is faboo.
It seems that the producers of the sequel were not willing to pay these actors enough to return for another one. The only main cast member to return for Beverly Hills Chihuahua 2 was George Lopez, because he'll do just about anything for a cheese sandwich.
I better go get washed up.
If I didn't know any better, I would think I was in the doghouse.
So, because the only recognizable name they had to be in this movie was George Lopez, we're stuck with Poppy as our protagonist for the next 2 films. Yippee! As a small character, I don't really mind Poppy, but as a protagonist, he is rough. I sent this script to my friend Kim, and she deemed it the Cars 2 Mater effect, and that is exactly the same. If you're unfamiliar, in the first Cars film, Mater is a mere comedic relief side character, and sure, I hate his guts, but a lot of people really loved Mater in that first movie. But then in the sequel, Cars 2, Mater is the protagonist, and he sucks balls. It's so hard to watch because he's just a bumbling idiot, and sure, as the side character of the first Cars film, this works. None of the stakes really rely on Mater, but when he has to carry an entire film on his shoulders, things start to fall apart pretty quickly. Now, luckily for Beverly Hills Chihuahua 2, there aren't really stakes in this movie, so it's not as bad as Cars 2, but it's still similar. Poppy's jokes that before were just to the side and easy to ignore are now most of the dialogue. This makes for an incredibly different experience than the first film.
$40,000? Do you accept Mexican Express?
Awesome. Otherwise, this recasting is mostly not too bad. The actress voicing Chloe might actually be better than Drew Barrymore, but honestly, she's not really in the movie enough to tell. It feels like Drew Barrymore did the first Beverly Hills Chihuahua for a new yacht, and Odette Annabelle did the next 2 for a new car.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
A little less stoic and bullshitted overall.
I know you're worried about your sons. Please tell us what happened, Delgado.
Both Sam and Rachel are recast by actors who somehow look even more like a Macy's catalog, and the woman playing Aunt Viv looks nothing like Jamie Lee Curtis in the slightest. I asked my girlfriend if she noticed this when she was a kid, and she said no. So I guess it truly doesn't matter. Do you remember how the first film felt like a deconstruction of privilege and how material extravagance matters not as much as our real connections with one another? They did that whole scene where Chloe rips off her last little shoe and dramatically throws it off of a moving train, for it isn't all she is. Well, Beverly Hills Chihuahua 2 begins with a dog wedding. Like a gigantic wedding that Aunt Viv threw for her dog. Arguably the most fuck you I'm rich thing a person can do. One of the biggest risks with sequels is that so many of them tend to undo all of the character development from the first film. This film does that almost to a comical degree, forgetting the theme of the first film almost entirely. I mean, come on. Extravagant dog wedding. Chloe at the end of the first film doesn't need that. She's changed. But in all honesty, it doesn't really matter all too much because Chloe is like hardly in this movie. He might as well have just killed her at the end of the first movie. I guess it doesn't really change that much. She has a few moments here and there where she yells at Poppy for being a bad father, and she hardcore flirts with Delgado.
Will you come with me on a special assignment tomorrow?
Delgado, I would do anything for you.
Keep it in your pants, Chloe. But other than that, this movie is about Poppy. And Poppy didn't really get an arc in the first movie to undo here, so it's like we're starting fresh. Poppy is a new father in this movie, as he and Chloe have just had 5 puppies. Their names are unimportant, and they don't have strong personalities like each of the buddies did, which I find both disappointing and frustrating. I just miss the baffling dialogue that came with each of those puppies' staunch personalities.
Yo, were you hallucinatripping?
And on top of that, I imagine writing these characters must have been so difficult because they each have no personality traits. There's Poppy Jr., who is a troublemaker like his dad, but what can you say about Lala, Ali, Rosa, and Pep in this movie? Nothing! They all just have these little baby voices. They sound like if you shrunk Drew Barrymore down and put her in a jar and shook her around a little bit and then made her cold read lines from your shitty screenplay. Actually, I'm not sure that didn't happen.
This is scary. We've never been out by ourselves before.
Anyway, throughout this entire movie, Poppy keeps trying to put his personality-forsaken kids to bed by telling them the stories of the Chihuahua warriors that came before them.
Now let me tell you a story that will make you feel better.
And since they're puppies who don't know any better, these stories inspire them to get into a lot of trouble. First, they start tearing shit up, and Chloe is pissed.
We're digging tunnels to carry our messages of love. Yep, we sure are.
I wonder where the kids could get an idea like that, Poppy.
Do you accept Mexican Express?
And then they try attacking a tree, which they think is a snake. Well, actually, only Poppy Jr. thinks it's a snake, but his other siblings take very little cajoling to get them to go along with it.
No, look! It's a ferocious beast. Yeah, let's get it. Yeah.
These kids wouldn't last a day in prison. Anyway, Poppy Jr. tries to attack a snake, but he falls out of the window and dies. I'm just kidding, but wouldn't that be an awesome way to end this movie? He's actually saved by Delgado, who is back from the first movie. He tells the gang that he's here on a secret mission, but then the humans say this.
Detective Meyer said that they're wrapping up a big case down there and that they won't be able to pick him up for a few weeks. I said we look after him until they come.
Which is so sad, and kind of meta if you think about it. Meanwhile, who knows what this dog actor thinks is happening when he's actually the star of a movie that will be seen by millions? He's a star, and he doesn't even know it. It's kind of beautiful in a way, how these dogs have led to the happiness of children all around the world without even knowing it. It's a helpful reminder, actually, that humans are the same way, making others happy, often without a sliver of knowledge that they're doing so. Anyway, the main plot of this movie is kind of weird for a kid's film, in my opinion. Essentially, Sam takes Poppy, Chloe, and their 5 kids to his parents' house in a much less nice part of LA, which the kids ogle at like they're rich people at a Piggly Wiggly. Rachel and Aunt Viv are not in this movie very much because they're in the rainforest finding a cure for some disease, which is one of the weirdest ways to say we're not quite sure what to do with your characters in this movie, please go away, that I've ever seen.
We're going to be looking for rare plants that could cure diseases.
While at their house, Sam's parents tell him that they haven't been paying their mortgage and that they're getting evicted.
Why don't the adults go outside? Not us. Wait for me.
I haven't been able to make the mortgage payments.
And this is the main conflict of the film, which is so bizarre to me. I think kids are smart, don't get me wrong, but plots like this in children's films are so strange. Like, there are no tangible stakes that a child can understand here. Losing the house, mortgage payments, the bank, sure, to an adult, those are all very real problems that are very stressful. But to a kid, these words mean nothing. The first film had such an understandable conflict. Chloe is stranded in Mexico and can't get home easily because she's a dog. In this film, they need to raise like $50,000 or something, or else the house of these people we've never met gets taken. Say it with me, everybody. Who cares? Anyway, at this house, we meet Pedro, Poppy's pit bull brother. He has more of a personality in the third film, but in this one, it's important to know that he has this smile that's actually really ugly, and every time he pulls it out, everybody is like, bro, put that shit away.
Hi there.
It's a chupacabra! He's there!
We also get a little flashback that shows when Poppy and Pedro were first adopted by Sam. Flashbacks in these movies are so funny. You'll notice how all of them have this blue wash over them to represent the past. This lore also directly contradicts the previous film, which, remember, tells us that Poppy came from the pound.
Poppy was a stray dog. I saved him from the pound.
Well, I guess Sam was just lying in that movie because Poppy was actually found in a box with his brother Pedro.
Yep. Life on the streets was no picnic, but then one day, all that changed. When Sam and his parents adopted us.
This, along with Chloe being a literal bot in this movie, leads me to believe that the people who wrote this film did not even see the first one. I'm sorry, but how else can you explain Aunt Viv going to the jungle?
I think I found it. I think this is it.
Sam and his parents meet with the banker, and of course they bring their dog along with them so he can make that awesome Mexican Express joke.
The house is ours.
$40,000? Do you accept Mexican Express?
I understand, like, it's a play on American Express, But is that it? Is there something I'm missing? It's like a setup with no punchline. Do you accept Mexican Express? That's where we... Tread lightly. Do you accept Mexican Express? That's where... Punchline. I can't make that joke, but George Lopez can. The guy playing the banker, who is also kind of the main antagonist, is a really funny actor. He's probably the only actor having any fun with the script, which you know that I like, and he has some really great moments throughout the film. He's also just straight up evil. He evicts Sam's parents out of their house for the dumbest reasons.
I am officially evicting you from this property. Your dogs have ruined this house, and this house is about to belong to the bank. You know, I could have the sheriff here.
That has to be against some sort of law. The bank can't just kick you out of your house because they're about to own it. They don't own it yet. This is one of those plots that makes you confused as a kid and just angry as an adult. In protest, Poppy pees all over the house, the banker Saul Goodman falls and kicks them out of their home, definitely illegally. So the whole dog gang goes to live in Aunt Viv's mansion while they sort things out. This is about the halfway point in the movie, and honestly nothing has happened, which is a testament to how much I can yap about nothing. You really start to feel the difference in pacing at this point. In the first film, at about this point, Chloe was literally stranded in Mexico. At this point in the sequel, we met some new characters, Poppy has been a shitty dad, kinda, and now we've finally changed locations. Give me some action or some drama about characters we know. Well, luckily we get another dramatic flashback. And this one is also about Delgado. Oh my god, he's lived such a storied life. It happens right after Chloe and Delgado go to canine training in Beverly Hills and meet these two dogs that look suspiciously like Delgado, and that's because they're his sons.
You can totally count on White Fox and Jelly Bean to have your back.
Not if one of them happens to be your father. He's never had our back.
Father? Is that a code word?
No. Those are my sons.
There's a flashback where we see Delgado leaving his children, supposedly to save them, but this detail is very unclear.
Don't turn around. Don't turn around.
While this part of the movie is very half-baked in my opinion, I do appreciate its addition because it does double down on the film's themes of fatherhood, which you may have forgotten is what this movie is about. Does it cover this topic poorly? Yeah, but it tries way harder than most movies of this caliber do, and I appreciate that. Soon, the dogs figure out the solution to all of the humans' financial problems when they see an ad in the newspaper for a dog show. They beg the humans to let them enter, and how this film represents dog shows is hilarious. I don't know if you've ever tuned into a real dog show, but they have a very specific vibe about them. It's shot like a toned-down version of the Olympics. Dogs are typically leashed, the judges fondle the dogs, it's the same every year. It definitely does not look like a fashion show for dogs.
Let's see those Beverly Hills dogs strut their stuff, huh? Yowza.
Anyway, the kids don't go to the dog show because they are simply too stupid, but Poppy, Chloe, Delgado, and Pedro are all entered.
Oh, will you chatty Cathy's shush?
They're up against Apolline, a French poodle voiced by Dr. Bridget Mendler.
Do I smell garbage?
Oh no, it is just the peasant dogs.
And the show is judged by Mr. Mosby, who in this film is named Mr. McKibble, which is so whimsical. He's a total asshole. He roasts Pedro for having an ugly-ass face.
Oh, disqualified.
He kicks out Delgado for looking too depressed. And he kicks out Chloe for playing one wrong note in Fleur Elise.
Oops.
No. Dismissed. What? Oh, you.
I understand, the first movie wasn't the most realistic film, but wasn't it grounded in some sort of reality? Of course, there are a bunch of animals talking to each other, but none of them could play piano. There's also these commentators for the dog show that are really trying to make Fabu happen.
Oh, Fabu.
Ooh, that one was Fabu too. Fabu.
They must be the owners of that pug, because who says that? I love when movies try to create their own slang, but it doesn't catch on. on because it's so painfully obvious what they're trying to do, and it just never works. And I want everybody to know that here is a safe space for the term Fabu, so if it can exist anywhere, let it exist in my comment section.
Fabu!
So the dog fashion show is down to 2 contestants, Poppy and Apolline, and Poppy seems like he has a chance at winning. That is, until Apolline's owner snitches that Poppy was found on the streets. I don't even know how she knows that.
You do realize the Beverly Hills Dog Show is for purebreds only.
No, we rescued him from the street. He was a stray.
I knew it!
And Poppy tragically loses due to things he simply can't control.
He might not have breeding papers or a pedigree, but you'll never meet a dog that shows more pure Chihuahua heart than Poppy.
Fight the tears.
And we're reminded that this film isn't just about fatherhood, but it's about the unconditional love that comes with it. Sam loves Poppy because of who he is, and Poppy is a good dog, not because of where he came from, but because of who he became. Despite Poppy's blood, he is a beautiful boy. Speaking of that, where are Poppy's kids? Well, when all the dogs lose the dog show, the kids go to tell Delgado's sons that they matter to him, all of them feeling brave because of Poppy telling them yet another story about the Chihuahua warriors.
Don't worry, mi amor. I will not let that happen.
Oh, where could they be?
Because of this, they end up in the middle of a bank robbery.
Get as much of it as you can. Yeah! Come on, guys! Hurry! Wow, look at all this!
This part is just absurd, but it's the most stuff that has happened in this movie, so I was really into it the first time I watched it. These bank robbers are inexplicably also bread makers, so they run to the bread factory after accidentally kidnapping all of the puppies. Oh, they really take after their parents getting kidnapped. They attempt to explain this location change with some dialogue, but it really just makes it more confusing.
How many of these jobs we pulled off in the last few months?
Yeah, we just hit the on button and the machines do all the work. It's a perfect cover.
I'm so much more confused now. Press the button and it makes bread? So you can rob banks while bread is being made? What does that help? What? Anyway, there's this really icky shot from the inside of Pedro's mouth, and then the puppies cover the bank robbers in bread dough, and it's really fucking gross.
Now you guys are really rolling in the dough?
Delgado reunites with his kids, and they just kind of understand why he left them because the movie is about to wrap up.
Chloe and the puppies told us why you left. We didn't know that you did it to protect us. Thank you, Dad.
I like to imagine that originally there was this really painful scene where Delgado admits that he was a bad father to his kids, but his kids don't really accept him after that. But Delgado breaks down crying, admitting how big of a coward he was for abandoning his kids and leaving them behind. And his kids are so uncomfortable seeing their father cry that they just have to accept him. But at the back of their head, lingering in their minds, is this thought that their dad didn't want to take care of them. And they don't really come to terms with that because while they can forgive, they can never forget. But I imagine that test audiences probably didn't like that all too much. He does his dog acting again, and it never gets old or any less corny.
Don't turn around. Don't turn around.
Come on, Delgado. Turn around.
The banker comes back to the house with a cop and tells them that since the dogs solved this criminal case, they get a $250,000 reward. And that pays for their entire mortgage. Remember, this movie is also kind of about a mortgage.
It'll probably pay off the loan on your house and then some.
Hey, guys!
Anyway, that's wrapped up. Chloe tells Poppy he's a good dad. The conflict between Sam and Rachel that was really pointless and existed in one scene that I forgot to mention is resolved. Sam proposes to Rachel, and the movie ends with a little dance party. God, I miss the era of movies ending with dance parties. Beverly Hills Chihuahua 2 is a movie about nurture over nature. Poppy and Chloe's children are products of their environment, despite them wanting to be great Chihuahua warriors like their ancestors. While they may not be warriors, the values instilled in them by Poppy encourage them to embrace their bravery and fight for what's right. It leads them to save the day. It also leads them to intercept a bank robbery and to get kidnapped, so I'm not really sure how well that theme works, but you know, it's still there. Delgado left his children, and they wanted nothing to do with him because he wasn't there for them in the years they needed him most. And Sam loves Poppy no matter where he comes from because he's a good boy. Despite this movie being silly as all get out, in a weird way it prioritizes its themes where it matters. Is the first half filler? Entirely. Does it go off the rails constantly? 100%. Did I have a good time? Honestly, yeah. It's so weird. I'm actually liking these movies. Either my brain has fully succumbed to the rot, or I'm enlightened. I'd like to believe it's the latter, but at this point I'm not quite sure. This movie bridges the gap in the series between the sap and the slop. It is equal parts of both. It has moments that will make you smile, and moments that will make you genuinely question why they would ever decide to make a sequel to Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
What mole is going on here?
There's one more movie in the Beverly Hills Chihuahua series, and it marks the full departure from the sappy sweetness the first film had into the sloppy trash we've yet to really see in this video. Let's jump into it. Beverly Hills Chihuahua 3, Viva la Fiesta, is about acceptance and change. It opens with these standing mariachi band dogs that look about as uncanny as when you can see Kermit dancing.
The epic story of two noble Chihuahuas, Poppy and the love of his life, Chloe.
What about Uncle Pedro?
This movie starts, as I'm sure you can tell, quite rough, but don't you fret, it only gets much stranger. The dogs now all live with Rachel and Sam, who are now married. We never get to see their wedding, that all happens off screen, despite the previous film making such a big stink about the dog wedding, but I guess if the wedding doesn't include dogs, who gives a fuck? This movie also completes the entire character assassination of Chloe, who now is even less of a character than she was in the previous film. On top of that, she's not even owned by Aunt Viv anymore. That was the entire conceit of the first film, that Chloe needed to get home because she's Aunt Viv's prized dog. If Beverly Hills Chihuahua 2 was the film that kills Chloe's character arc, Beverly Hills Chihuahua 3 curb stomps it into oblivion. Oh, and remember how the first film is about her understanding her privilege and caring less about her life of glamour? Well, in this movie, she's literally a dog model.
Now make me love it. Now make me hate it. Now make me confused, but I can't look away.
That's right, dog model. This movie is amazing. The way it's structured is akin to a film like Avengers Infinity War or an extended 22-minute sitcom. There are multiple stories happening concurrently that we cut back and forth between A plots, B plots, C plots, so on and so forth. So rather than moving chronologically like we did with the previous two films, it makes more sense with this one to talk about each storyline individually. So let's do that. First, let's talk about the small ones. Oh, my light's not on. Now you know where I secretly stopped recording. Damn it. Okay, first we'll talk about the most unimportant of unimportant characters in these movies, Rachel and Sam, who both get jobs at this fancy hotel. Sam gets a job as a landscaper, which makes sense because that's been his job since the first movie. He has this assistant who hates his job and is just sleeping all the time, like comically the worst coworker you've ever seen.
Mind grabbing that shovel? Better start digging.
I would love to, but I can't. Carpal tunnel?
You have carpal tunnel syndrome?
No.
And Sam really struggles with this. This change that was sprung upon him by Rachel is not what he had hoped it would be. When he finally gets his big project done, it's ruined by Poppy being a big fucking idiot, proving that most of his problems that he had before moving into this hotel still exist there. You can't just up and move somewhere and expect all your problems to change. You're still gonna have that annoying-ass dog voiced by George Lopez. There's also Rachel, who gets a job as the sous chef in the hotel's kitchen. I think if there's any character this series does not know what to do with, it's Rachel. In the first film, she was racist and snotty.
Your dog is muy bad. Muy bad. Mucho naughty.
But she comes around eventually when she realizes that Sam speaks English and they eventually fall in love. That first film justifies her inclusion mostly because she is not just a character, but a plot device. She is fully the reason that Chloe ends up on her journey. In the second film, however, there wasn't any reason for her to be there, so they literally sent her to the jungle. And in this third film, they claim she went to school to become a chef? Which, like, when did she do that? In the jungle? This, of course, makes no sense and feels entirely out of character for her. But so did going to the jungle to find the cure for some mystery disease. So that begs the question, what is in character for Rachel? To me, Rachel is characterized by her resilience. Her resilience in the face of change. When she needs to find her aunt's dog who is lost wandering in Mexico, she finally becomes responsible, because she needs to be. When her aunt needs an assistant to help find a plant that can be used as a cure for some disease, she goes along with it. When a film needs to fill its runtime with a scene that takes place inside of a kitchen, and they have a really funny guy with a French accent who needs somebody to yell at, Rachel is there to fill those shoes.
Allez, hop, hop, zoom. Allez, vas-y. Non, mais c'est un tas, non. Go. Allez, au boulot. On y va. Oh, so rude.
You may be saying that this is actually more of an example of the fact that different people wrote each of these films. But to that I say, yes, But who cares? Rachel is a perfect exemplification of change to me, and that is all that matters for my analysis and enjoyment of these films. One, I think it's more fun to look at it this way, and two, at the end of the day, the artist's intent matters very little to me. There's also Pedro. Remember Pedro with that ugly-ass smile? Yeah, that smile is now CGI.
No, don't! Oh!
You know, I thought they were just giving this dog a hard time in the first film. I was like, hey, he's a dog, he's not gonna have a perfect smile. But now I get it. That shit is monstrous. This film is where the budget really takes a pitfall. Pedro, as I mentioned in the previous film, doesn't really have a strong personality. But in this film, they tried to fix that, and it feels so forced. Here are the two things that define him most in this movie. One, he thirsts over this fancy dog who sort of fills the void that Chloe left.
Momento, eres tan especial.
And he swoons her, but it takes a while because his smile is so goddamn ugly.
Oh, wow.
But she does get with him at the end because, as we've learned from these movies, persistence is key. A totally non-harmful theme for young boys to learn. I'd make another patriarchy joke, but I fear that I'd lose all of my subscribers if I did that. Here, let me try another one. These animals need to work through their dog-sick masculinity. Not worth it. Pedro's second defining personality trait is that he loves peanut butter. I understand that dogs typically enjoy a little bit of peanut butter, right? But Pedro's love for peanut butter in this movie is borderline sexual.
I see peanut butter.
It's just the laziest joke, but it's repeated so many times that at a certain point you can't help but just laugh.
You know, I hear they have a whole closet dedicated exclusively to peanut butter.
What do you intend to do in that closet, Pedro? Pedro's peanut butter fetish is an example of a really interesting aspect of these movies. Forced and unfounded Flanderization. These characters do not become parodies of themselves because writers found something that worked and ran it into the ground. These characters were parodies to begin with, and they're just running Pedro's peanut butter boner into the ground hoping that it'll stick. But it just fails so hard, much like Pedro's boner for peanut butter.
Does this mean I won't get to see the peanut butter closet?
I guess Pedro's undying love of peanut butter represents a constant in a world made of change. Even if everyone's life in this movie is changing to a massive degree, Uncle Pedro still fiends for that peanut butter. Some things never change, even when you would really like them to.
He ordered theirs with a side of peanut butter.
And then there's Chloe, who becomes a dog model in this movie and is definitely having an affair with her kid's teacher at dog school, Oscar.
That was some workout, huh? That instructor always kicks my tail.
You're really good at downward dog.
Thanks.
I'm on to you, Buster.
Look, Poppy, Chloe and I were just trying to enjoy a nice detox, you know? Exchanging juicing tips and clearing our chakras.
Sure, Oscar. A detox. You're a homewrecker. Chloe also plays piano again, and it's really funny because you can tell there are just people shaking this poor dog to make it look like she's more realistically playing piano. But she's a fucking dog. Like, you don't have to throttle her. Finally, let's talk about Poppy, who returns as our protagonist, and is, yes, still voiced by George Lopez, the only returning cast member from the original film. I'm sorry, but even Grease 2 was able to get more than one of the original cast members. Poppy's story is the most frequent. I would consider it the A-plot, and at its core, what this film is really about. Essentially, Poppy has the exact same problem as the previous film. He feels inadequate as a father. He homeschools his 5 kids every day, but Chloe thinks there's more important things to learn than digging.
Do you grade on a curve?
Baby, I grade on the curb. I teach them street school.
So, because Rachel and Sam are getting jobs at the hotel, Chloe wants their kids to go to dog school there. You might be screaming at your computer, Max, fucking dog school? And yeah, I'm so numb to these films that fucking dog school didn't even faze me. I haven't slept in weeks. Somebody please help me, please. Poppy and Chloe meet Jenny and Oscar, the 2 teachers of dog school. Jenny is Oscar's owner, and Oscar is a dog dead set on cucking Poppy.
Don't worry about it, little dude. I got it all covered. High forward, bro.
I'm not your bro, dude.
Actually, the way that Sam and Rachel get their jobs at the hotel is because Chloe is hired as the hotel's mascot, hence why she is a dog model in this movie.
We need a
dog to be the face of our hotel, who will attract those well-heeled jet-setters and their canine companions.
I like this guy.
Chloe, Winthrop, Ash.
Cortez.
Poppy is immediately jealous of this, introducing his biggest character trait in this film, which is also his most annoying, his inferiority complex. Here's the unfortunate truth. Poppy does the least out of any character in this film, but he does get the most screen time, which leads to a really hard watch sometimes. He mopes around as his kids enjoy school, he hangs out in the background making snarky comments while Chloe is at a photo shoot.
Great scarf. Mark Jacobs?
Gucci, actually.
Loves it.
Careful, pool boy.
Poppy.
What?
And he creates conspiracy theories about Jenny and Oscar's secret scheming. He turns out to be right about that, by the way. Jenny and Oscar are corrupt as shit, but it's borderline infuriating to watch a dog walk around being an asshole for an hour and a half. This is not helped by the already annoying line deliveries by George Lopez.
Great. Have you been drinking toilet water? Those two are local.
Do you accept Mexican Express?
The most endearing part of this film involving Poppy is his attempt at throwing a quinceañera for his daughter Rosa. Rosa is supposedly the runt of the litter, an aspect not touched on in the slightest in the previous film, but that's okay. What's new? These films may as well not be connected. She gets bullied relentlessly by this German dog at dog school because she can't swim.
Oh, look at the little puppykins and the little schwimmies.
And Poppy wants her to feel special, so he decides to throw her a massive quinceañera.
Your father's gonna throw you the biggest, baddest fiesta this town's ever seen.
Did you guys hear that?
You might be confused, wondering how this dog could possibly be 15 years old in the timeline of the Beverly Hills Chihuahua franchise. And this question is answered the same way that Drake justifies the age of his lovers to his friends and family. Dog years. Poppy needs help throwing this party, so he invites everybody's favorite character.
Party of a lifetime!
Sebastian!
Fasten your Chubutons and let the planning begin. I'm here and I have fabric samples.
It's in this movie where his name is finally said. It's Sebastian, so I really can't call him just the gay pug anymore. He will now be referred to as Sebastian the gay pug. He is in this movie so much.
We are at the Langham, okay? It's not like some boogeyman is gonna come flying over the...
This is the one time this series takes something I loved about one of the previous films and expands upon it.
Ugh, I can't afford this kind of stress. I'm gray and wrinkly as it is.
He calls Poppy boy chick at one point, which made me question, is Sebastian Jewish?
Poppy, sweetie, boy chick, she's not your little puppy anymore.
And then later, when he's auditioning bands to play at Rosa's quinceañera, he asks one of them if they can play klezmer.
Can you cover R&B?
Si.
Hip-hop?
Si.
Death metal?
Si.
Klezmer?
Si.
Which I think is enough evidence to support my theory that Sebastian is actually Sebastian, the gay Jewish pug. I'm so glad these movies are representative and inclusive of all dogs of all backgrounds. Actually, this audition has a lot in it. There are a bunch of different bands made up of dogs that can play instruments, fully committing to the in-universe idea that dogs can be musical prodigies. A strange but welcome piece of lore. I know nobody asked, but here is my definitive ranking of all of these bands. In last place is easily Hound Garden, which is a pun that finds itself much funnier than it actually is. Then there's Lady Gaga and The Tramp, fairly unremarkable in my opinion. Exactly middle of the road is Black Labyrinth, which George Lopez gives his genius media analysis of.
It's just the same 3 chords over and over.
Thanks, George. My second favorite is Bob Marley and Me, who sings the utterly baffling Jaw Wah Wah.
By the way,
Him got to smell, got to be on play.
Chihuahua dog always know the way.
Not sure how they got away with that, but cool. And I feel like I can't harp on them for that pun, because I'm the guy who made that dog-sick masculinity joke, so I'll just see myself out. And finally, the best of all, and my top artist on Spotify Wrapped this year, the Black-Eyed Fleas.
The Black-Eyed Fleas!
It's just a bunch of fleas. Fuck yeah. Rosa feels inferior because of her smallness and the fact that she can't swim, so at one point she tries to save that fancy dog that Pedro is trying to bang.
Somebody help! The deep end.
And here we have the most contrived conflict of all time. Essentially, Poppy hears Rosa yelling, and he and Pedro run to rescue her. In doing this, they destroy the garden that Sam has been working on the entire movie, all by themselves. This scene is infuriating.
Why are you chasing me? Poppy, you got all the nights for it to rain.
It's not rain, you freaking all this spring.
Pedro, you don't do well in crisis.
Those are statues.
I never liked that statue.
Like, it's so unnecessary and obviously just to create a problem for Sam. And it makes Poppy, who is already incredibly unlikable, more unlikable and impossibly stupid. I don't know, I just have never vibed with characters who are just dumb. They finally get to Rosa, who has saved the snooty dog, but Poppy thinks that Rosa was just swimming to prove that she could. It's a very frustrating part of the film that would have annoyed me even as a kid because everything could have been solved by simple communication. And when all of the conflict in your film could have been solved by one sentence being said by a single character, I just never find that very compelling. Later, Poppy feels bad because Sam gets in trouble for the garden looking like shit, so all the dogs decide to gather together and fix the garden, where Rosa's quinceañera will take place. They also need to thwart Jenny and Oscar, who are destroying the hotel from within by leaking information to their biggest rivals.
I know it might seem like they're just manipulative, rude, and sneaky, but it gets worse. They're also conniving schemers.
So they get Delgado to come help bust them. Yeah, Delgado is in this movie too. That's all he does. Delgado is barely in this movie. I guess they didn't really know what to do with him either. So he just ties up the owner of the other hotel and hangs him in a tree. And not in the way that would kill him, but in a way that would keep him stuck. Don't ask me to explain the logistics of that. There's a big montage when they're putting together the party for Rosa, and the song that plays while they do it is none other than... which made me smile. For those of you unfamiliar, there was a heavily memed video of Rainy Rodriguez singing that song on a red carpet.
Fiesta, salsa, quinceañera, baila, siente ritmo, ponte a sonreír, ven conmigo.
I actually have kind of a weird relationship with that video. On the day my high school shut down because of COVID, I was in class making a really cursed edit of it.
It's like, you know...
And it was like the last time I hung out with a lot of my friends. It was my video productions class. We were really tight-knit. So now whenever I see or hear that meme, I think about that day. So what I'm saying is, Rainy Rodriguez is the musical equivalent of COVID-19. At least in my brain, anyway. Let's get back to the movie. Rosa absolutely loves her party, and Poppy gives a speech about how proud he is of her. Poppy doesn't really get a complete arc in this movie, but is that not indicative of real life? When our lives are completely upended, sometimes it's really hard to fully transition, at least not right away. While Poppy hasn't fully changed yet, at the end of the movie he's accepted that his children are growing, and that he can't teach them forever. Change is inevitable, and now Poppy's a little more open to it. There's a lot of other random stuff in this movie I forgot to mention, like there's this silent dog who loves to whittle, and this depressed hotel manager.
I'm sure you understand, sir, your family must live here?
Well, I can't say that they do, or that I have any family.
I'm sorry, that must be tough.
Only in days that end in Y.
And there's this incredibly earnest mid-credit scene where the hotel manager adopts that dog, and it's really sweet.
I have a dog here who's going to be needing a new hotel tag.
What room, sir?
Which room? Manager's suite.
And it's like maybe the sappiest any of these movies get, which is crazy that it would be in this one. There's this part where Poppy walks into the rival hotel and the receptionist there says, "I'm sorry, you'll need to book an appointment," as if he's like a real person.
Hang on one second. Excuse me, I'm sorry, you need an appointment?
There's also like a million hilarious moments with this Gordon Ramsay-esque French chef. He just hates Rachel's ass.
May I offer my advice from an old chef?
I'd be honored, sir.
Nobody cares!
But yeah, this movie is the sloppiest of all three of them. Just full sloppage. I absolutely loved it. I didn't think I'd have so much to say about this movie, given that the least amount of interesting stuff happens in it. But what I love about this one is how much it explores the characters that the previous films neglected the most. Rachel gets more screen time after basically being written out of the sequel, Sebastian gets to be his Fabu self, and we finally get to know one of Poppy and Chloe's children. This movie sucks dick, but it sucks my dick. And it represents life's one true constant: change. The BHC universe is so fascinating to me because unlike most of the dog slop out there, they actually tried. The first movie in this series is a wonderfully told version of the hero's journey. Sure, there are ridiculous moments spattered throughout, but the theme is there. And sure, the other films aren't as well crafted or told, but they still do focus on what they're about. These aren't necessarily great movies, but they do have great themes, which you can't really say about a lot of children's films of this caliber, and that's really refreshing. But I'll be honest, liking these movies makes me a total hypocrite. Sure, these are marginally better than the Buddies movies, but a lot of the things I called out those movies for exist here. Plot contrivances, lack of stakes, stereotyping, bad CGI, dogs talking. But I think there are two major differences between my experience with each of these series. The first is definitely the films themselves. The people who wrote the Beverly Hills Chihuahua movies at least tried to go for something. Each of them, to me, as I have stressed many times in this video, have pretty clear themes. The first analyzes what it means to be higher class and to live a luxurious life, the second is about family and unconditional love, and the third is about change. And I don't know that I could tell you what any of the Buddies movies are about on a thematic level. Perhaps Space Buddies. Space Buddies is about the love one has for their child. No, I can't even do Space Buddies. And I think in children's films, theme is so important because whether we like it or not, children are being taught by the media they're watching. And I really appreciate that about these movies. The dumb stuff is outweighed by the nice messages. The slop is outweighed by the sap. The second reason I liked these movies way more than the Buddies films is that I was genuinely in a way better mood watching these than I was a year ago. This has been a year of incredible self-growth for me, and I'm an entirely different person than I was a year ago. I rewatched my Buddies video recently, and while it's a project I'm still very proud of, I'd do it completely differently if I made it today. And I watched those movies alone, and while I was working from 7 in the morning to 5 p.m. every day, and it was just hard. And I watched these movies with my girlfriend who adores them. I mean, come on, that's the best. So in terms of dog cinema, I do think that Beverly Hills Chihuahua stands out and is a special franchise. Not because they're the best movies ever, or the funniest, or the worst, or the most absurd, but because they tried, and despite the slop, they work. And that's when art like this is the best. And I think it's fair to say that these movies changed how I perceive art. Sometimes you find meaning in the sap, and sometimes you find meaning in the slop. Often it's not the art itself that inspires change, but it's the viewer's outlook. As a whole, these movies helped me realize that, and individually, they helped me realize some other things. Like the importance of contextualizing one's privilege, that our relationships with other people matter more than anything else in the world, that change is hard, but growth is better, and that George Lopez will do any movie for a scratch on the tummy. These movies are stupid and for kids, but they're also beautiful and for everybody. It just depends on how you look at it. Hi, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed. It's been a really wild year for the channel for me. I released 3 of my biggest videos yet, and I've just had such a blast making them, and they seem to be getting, you know, pretty well received, so I'm glad that you guys are enjoying them as much as I'm enjoying making them. If you want to see other creative endeavors that I'm doing that come out a little bit more frequently, check out my second channel, Maxwell to the Green. I just started my first semester at film school, so there should be a lot of content coming there in the next year or so stay tuned for that. And yeah, that'll about do it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely holiday and new year, and I'll see you in 2025. Goodbye!
All suffused with an incandescent glow. No one will have the endurance to collect on his insurance. Lloyds of London will be loaded when they go. We will all fry together when we fry.